Good afternoon, all respected participants, and also to our honorable speaker. Selamat sore, kami ucapkan kepada seluruh peserta dari webinar Sustainable Development Goals, webinar series, persembahan dari Biro Kerjasama dan Hubungan Internasional Universitas Kristen Satyawacana. Once again, we would like to say welcome to our esteemed participants who joined the session this afternoon, and this is our 7th webinar series. Ini adalah seri ke-7 dari 17 seri webinar Sustainable Development Goals, persembahan dari BKHI UKSW. Before we continue to our speaker for this afternoon, please let me read you out our participation guideline for this afternoon session. Sebelum kita memulai seri di sore hari ini, di mana hari ini adalah seri yang ke-7, izinkan saya untuk membacakan sedikit tata tertib kegiatan webinar series SDGs BKHI UKSW. The first participation guideline is all participants' microphone is turned off upon entry. Tata tertib yang pertama, perlu kami informasikan bahwa mikrofon Anda telah kami nonaktifkan ketika Anda memasuki ruangan Zoom ini. If it is possible, please turn on your video to show your interest to this afternoon's session. Jika memungkinkan, Anda dapat mengaktifkan video Anda agar menunjukkan ketertarikan Anda dalam mengikuti sesi di sore hari ini. And the next participation guideline, number 2, please change your participant's name as follows: home university name student ID, for example, UKSW-RICO-67-2020-001. Poin yang kedua, mohon untuk mengganti nama Anda dengan format universitas asal, nama depan, dan NIM. Contoh UKSW RICO 6720200001. Apabila Anda adalah seorang dosen atau staf dari institusi pendidikan ataupun institusi lainnya di Indonesia, mohon cukup mencantumkan nama institusi Anda lalu nama depan Anda. So if you are a staff or lecturer from other institutions, education institutions from around Indonesia or from abroad, please just write down your institution name and then your first name. And the third participation guideline, please type in your questions in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand and your microphone will be unmuted. Yang ketiga, tolong untuk dapat menuliskan pertanyaan Anda di dalam kolom chat, atau Anda juga bisa menggunakan fitur raise hand, maka mikrofon Anda akan kami unmute. And last but not least, the evaluation form is to be announced towards the end of this session. Perlu kami informasikan bahwa link absensi dan form evaluasi akan kami umumkan menjelang akhir sesi di sore hari ini. Please let me introduce you to our 7th speaker of the Sustainable Development Goals webinar series. Izinkan saya untuk memperkenalkan narasumber yang ke-7 kita pada webinar SDGs BKHI UKSW, yaitu Bapak Giner Maslebu SPD SSC MSc, selaku Kepala Lembaga Layanan Kemahasiswaan Universitas Kristen Satyawacana dan juga dosen di Fakultas Sains dan Matematika UKSW. Our 7th speaker is Mr. Giner Maslebu SPD SSC MSc, the head of the Student Affairs Office at Universitas Kristen Satyawacana, and also a lecturer at the Faculty of Science and Mathematics at Universitas Kristen Satyawacana. He will be discussing the topic of the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 7, which is affordable and clean energy. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Topik di sore hari ini adalah tentang affordable and clean energy, dan kita akan segera mendengarkannya. Without further ado, let me share the screen to Pak Giner. Pak Giner, the screen is yours.
Associate Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu, our Vice Rector of International Relations of Universitas Kristen Satyawacana, Pak Ryan, Bu Deborah, and BKI staff, our students and participants from UKSW and from other education institution. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity that given to me at this lovely moment. I would like to share with all of you about SDG 7, Sustainable Development Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. Hopefully, in the next couple of minutes, I will deliver my presentation, and we are going to have discuss about this topic, and hopefully it's going to be a fruitful discussion for us this afternoon. Here's the outline of my presentation today. um, Introduction, and then I'm going for the policies and strategies, and the third part will be the role of renewable energy. The fourth part of my presentation will be the opportunities and challenges. Okay, let us going to see the first part of my presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if we visit UNDP sites, or we read lots of news and many information related to the electric consumption, we have some information that between the year 2000 and 2018, the number of people with electricity around the world actually increased from 78 to 90%. But we still have the number of people without electricity. It's about 789 million people. So it's still a huge number of people around the world who has no access to electricity. And we still have another problem because the population continues to grow day by day, year by year. So will the demand for cheap energy and an economy reliant on fossil fuels. Now, we are still relying on fossil fuel until today, which is take the most percentage of our resource, yeah, is creating drastic change to our climate. So we still have problem because of the fossil fuel. We have problem with our climate change today. I will not talk deeper about climate change, but all of us already experience the impact of climate change today. So here's the deeper fact of what is actually happening around us related to the topic that we are going to talk today. %, if we say that 1 out of 10 or 10% of the people around the world still lacks electricity, and most of them live in the rural areas of the developing world, and especially half of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. This is the fact. Energy is by far the main contributor to the climate change. It accounts for 73% of human caused greenhouse gases. Jadi gas rumah kaca ya, 70% it is caused by our activity using the energy. Yeah, energy efficiency is the key. The right efficiency policies, if the world or every government could enable the world to achieve more than 40% of the emission cuts needed to reach its climate goals without new technology. Other facts are, the next slide, Almost a third of the world's population, which is around 2.8 billion people, now, rely on polluting and unhealthy fuels for cooking. As of 2017, 17.5% of power was generated through renewable sources, which is still a very small percentage if we compare to the total energy sources. That is why this afternoon we are going to see what is the future look like if we push the renewable energy to take the bigger percentage in our energy sources. The renewable energy sector employed a record 11.5 million people up in 2019. This is the recent data 2 years ago. Now, the change needed in energy production and uses to achieve the Paris Agreement target of limiting the rise in temperature to below 2 degrees of Celsius actually can create 18 million jobs. So instead of reducing the impact of climate change, the reduction of the temperature of the world, it is also provide jobs for millions of people around the world. So when we turn to renewable energy, there is hope. There is hope for job around the world. Next. Well, this is what we experienced as an Indonesian about 2 years ago. I still remember I watched on the YouTube, yeah, watch on TV, read online news, yeah. If you still remember the blackout experience that happened in the island of Java and back in 2019, some news like the Jakarta Post entitled "Major Blackout Hits Greater Jakarta with Java on Sunday," and BBC in Indonesian memberi judul "Mati Lampu di Jakarta, Banten." Kerugian bisnis diperkirakan mencapai triliunan rupiah. Jadi billions of rupiahs are lost during the blackout. This is the economic effect if we experience the cut of electricity. It is just happened in Jakarta and in some bigger part in the West Java. In just one day. Can you imagine if it happened in, let's say, a week? If we lose the source of energy, if it happened in the greater area, not only in the island of Java, but if it also happened in Sulawesi, in Kalimantan, or even in the east part of Indonesia like Papua, can you imagine the economic impact of losing the energy? I still remember watching the TV and MRT stop dropping people from one place to another place. The machines stop working. It gives a very bad impact to the economy of a country. That is why we need to think that if we keep using non-renewable energy, let in our discussion, we say it the fuel, the fossil fuel. In the next couple of years, some experts say in the next 50 or even less than 100 years, we are going to be in trouble if we are not shifting the energy sources that we use today. If we still rely on the fossil fuel sources as the main energy for our electricity consumption. Next, yeah, see what is going to happen without electricity. Women and girls must spend hours fetching water. Clinics cannot store vaccine because we have to store vaccine in a certain temperature, and we need energy to create that kind of situation, that kind of temperature. Okay. School children cannot do homework after the dark. When nights come, they use lilin, yeah, or cara-cara traditional. But see, businessmen remain uncompetitive because the machine today cannot work without uh, electric source. Next. We have another case. We have indoor air pollution from the dirty fuel sources like wood, charcoal, and animal dung causes over 4 million premature deaths every year. Health effect. Well, what I'm trying to say for us this afternoon that we have to thank God that for us who are in this room right now, we can use electricity in a good way. I mean, we can use it freely for today. Well, we pay it every month, but we can have access to it. But there are still so many parts of this world, including in Indonesia, especially in remote areas, they still have no access to electricity. So we still in struggle with the uh, energy consumption to be fulfilled in Indonesia. Fossil fuels are the largest producer of greenhouse gases. It creates climate change and also harming the environment. We all know this. We have learned about this since we are actually in the elementary school. As I remember, we talk about sumber daya alam ya. We have learned that ada yang terbarukan renewable and tidak terbarukan non renewable energy. But still, what can we do? Lalu pertanyaannya adalah the question is apa kebijakan dari our government to bring a better world, bring a better energy consumption, a clean and affordable one. Okay, let's move to the next. Okay, well, here's the situation. We have comparison before COVID-19 and the COVID-19 implication when we are trying to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. As I've already mentioned before, that before COVID, the latest data 2019, yeah, we have 789 million people lack of electricity, and COVID-19 implication for affordable and reliable energy is critical for the health facilities because 1 in 4 health facilities is not electrified in some developing country. This is the fact. So we are entering a new struggle. We are facing before COVID-19 with 789 million people lack electricity. And when COVID-19, the wave comes, health facility become a very crucial place. Can we imagine what is actually happen if the source of energy is lack for the health facilities? That is why we need to rethink about it. We need to rethink about it, about the future, what is going to happen with the energy that actually we have today and how to sustain it. Next. Well, I've tried to find the data of Indonesia electricity access between 1991 up to 2021, and we have the data up to 2018 actually. We can see from the graph, yeah, the rise of electricity access from 1990 up to 20, almost 100%, but still not 100%, because as I mentioned before, then we still have some place in Indonesia with no electricity access, especially in the remote area. It's about 89.51%. Indonesia has fulfilled its electricity access to its population, 98.51% in 2018. Okay, next. Okay, we'll see, as I've already mentioned before, that there are so many sources of energy that actually used, and especially in Indonesia, we'll see in the Indonesian perspective. Here's the percentage of energy sources that we actually use. We use a very small percentage of renewable energy up to 2019. It's only around 8.6%. If we compare to minyak, yeah, oil, which is the biggest portion, the biggest percentage of our energy sources, 38.8%, and we have gases, we have about 19.7%, and we have batu bara, di sana 33%. But we can see that from year after year, from 28 up to 2019, we have seen that there is an increasing use of renewable energy, but it's not enough. It's not enough. As I said, that in the next couple of years, the next couple of decades, we are going to lose many sources of oil, also batu bara. That is why we need to shift our energy source. Yeah. Next. Well, that is actually the situation that we experience as the people of the world, and especially the people of Indonesia, that we still need electricity consumption, but in the other hand, the source is very limited. That is why, what can we do, especially our government? What kind of policies and strategies that has been made to support this sustainable development goal? That's why I say that we need the commitment of Indonesian government on climate change, which is related to energy consumption. Well, we are talking about global commitment. We have to keep the increasing of earth temperature less than 2 degrees Celsius. And we have national commitment. You can googling, ladies and gentlemen, Undang-Undang Nomor 16 tahun 2016 about ratifikasi pengurangan emisi greenhouse gases, gas rumah kaca ya, in 2030. 29% business as usual. It is national effort if we do in our way, but it could be up to 41% if the international community works together, supporting each other to reduce the greenhouse gases. And we are talking about commitment in energy sector. Our government has made commitment to reduce greenhouse gases up to 314 sampai 398 juta ton carbon dioxide by 2030. And we have peraturan-peraturan turunan. We have peraturan pemerintah nomor 79 2014, kebijakan energi nasional, National Energy Policy, and peraturan presiden nomor 22 2017, rencana umum energi nasional, which is put the target 23% pada bauran energi primer, 17% pengamatan energi final, dan skenario pada aktivitas business as usual. Nah, we have aksi mitigasi melalui pergantian budget subsidi untuk kegiatan produktif, infrastruktur, sehingga 23% kontribusi energi baru terbarukan dalam baruan energi nasional itu pada tahun 2025. So we have a dream as a country by doing the policies and some strategies that by 2025, which is 4 years from now on, we are going to have 23% contribution of renewable energy in our national energy consumption. And we can convert waste to energy, right? Okay, here's the more specific. National Energy Policy bertujuan untuk to reduce ketergantungan terhadap tadi fossil fuel and develop alternative energy sources. And here is some strategies. The first one is to control the volume dari konsumsi BBM bersubsidi dengan pemberian subsidi tetap, pengenalan produk BBM non subsidi dengan harga terjangkau. And then the second strategy is develop alternative energy resources. Now we need pembangunan infrastruktur pendukungnya, dan yang pasti we need supporting incentive fiskal. And based on peraturan pemerintah nomor 79 2014, we have some priority for national energy development. The first one is memaksimalkan the use of renewable energy. The second one is meminimalkan the use of energy fuel, fossil fuel energy ya. Yang ketiga, mengoptimalkan the use of gas and new energy. Yang keempat, menggunakan batu bara sebagai andalan pasokan energi nasional. And the last one is using nuclear as the pilihan terakhir. Jadi nuclear power, nuclear energy is the last option in our national energy development priority. Next. Well, actually, it is not easy. It's not easy when we need to change from our national habit of source consumption, energy source consumption. So we have 3 core dimensions of sustainable energy system actually when we are balancing the energy dilemma. We have energy security, we have environmental sustainability, and we have energy equity. These three things supposed to be considered, these three core dimensions for sustainable energy system. That is why every government should consider these three things when coming to make decision or put the top priority or strategy related to energy consumption, energy sources management. Next. Well, if we see the target by our government by 2025, based on peraturan pemerintah number 79 2014 about national energy policy, well, we can see this the change from 2016. We have 7.7% of renewable energy shifting or change up to 23% by 2025. This is the target of our government. I don't know actually exactly the increasing up to 2021, but hopefully by the end of 2025, we can see the increasing of the renewable energy percentage in our energy consumption or energy sources using in our country, Indonesia. There will be reducing, especially for fuel. Fuel we reduce from 33.8% to 25%. Hopefully it works. And also batubara from 34.6% to 30%. And also the gases. So hopefully by 2025, the renewable energy sources is getting more portion in our energy sources in our country. Next. Well, the rule of renewable energy. The first one is actually peningkatan penyediaan energi, with the target as in the graph, in the diagram, 23% by 2025. We have acceleration for modern energy access with the electrification ratio 70% by 2019. And I haven't seen the latest result on 2020 and 2021, but hopefully it keep increase, yeah. Contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gas, as we have made commitment as a nation to reduce 29% of the GRK, greenhouse gases, by 2030. And energy sector, we are targeting to reduce the emission carbon dioxide 314 millions of tons by the same year. And also, the rule of renewable energy is to push the green economy system in Indonesia. Well, I would like to ask Mas Ryan to play the video on YouTube about this sources of energy. Let's see together.
Around the world, renewable energy use is on the rise. And these alternative energy sources could hold the key to combating climate change. What is renewable energy? Renewable energy is generated from sources that naturally replenish themselves and never run out. The most common sources are solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and biomass. Over 80% of the total energy consumed by humans is derived from fossil fuels. However, renewables are the fastest growing source of energy in the world. Renewable energy has many benefits. First, it can combat climate change because it creates no direct greenhouse gas emissions. The only emissions that they produce are indirect, meaning those that result from manufacturing parts, installation, operation, and maintenance. But even those are minimal. Second, renewable energy can decrease pollution and therefore reduce threats to our health. Wind, solar, and hydroelectric systems create no air pollution emissions, and geothermal and biomass energy systems emissions are much lower than non-renewable energy sources. Third, renewable energy is a reliable source of power. Because renewable energy sources are, well, renewable, they will never run out. Once built, renewable facilities cost very little to operate, and the fuel is often free. As a result, renewable energy prices tend to be stable over time. While renewable energy has many advantages, it is not without downsides. It is difficult for renewable energy sources to generate power on the same large scale as fossil fuels. Building wind farms and dams can disrupt wildlife and migration patterns and lead to ecological destruction. Both solar and wind energy are intermittent. They only generate power while the sun is shining or while the wind is blowing. Batteries can store excess energy for later use. However, they are often costly. While renewable energy presents some challenges, it also offers an environmentally friendly alternative to the greenhouse gas emissions and pollution of fossil fuels. And as advances in technology make renewable energy more accessible, affordable, and efficient, an end to climate change could be within our reach.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ryan. We can back to the presentation. From the video, there are actually some points that we can take as the advantage of using the renewable energy. It combats climate change, it decreases pollution, and it's reliable, but still have some challenges there that need to be considered. Yeah. Well, as we have seen the powerful of the renewable energy, and because it is available abundantly in our planet, we can use it, and especially in Indonesia, we can see the potential of renewable energy, hydro energy, solar energy, yeah, geothermal energy, bioenergy, wind, laut juga. So we have so many potential of the renewable energy that if our government can manage it very well, it can help our country to switch from the use of fossil fuel and use the renewable energy as the main source for the future. Next. Investment potential of renewable energy. I've tried to access some information from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and actually almost every part of our country, of Indonesia, has potential for the use on development of renewable energy from Sumatra to Papua. And this is a gift, but also a challenge for our government. We have 12 priority wilayah prioritas yang ekonominya menarik gitu. If we can see from the maps, yeah, in Sumatra we have 1, 2, 3, 4 areas, and in Borneo also we have some, and even in Maluku and in the eastern Indonesia we have also in NTB. See that if this potential can be managed very well by our government, and we can have what the SDG wants from us, the clean and affordable energy for society. Next. Now, for example, our government has pembangkit listrik tenaga surya, solar energy strategy of development. We have skala mikro, makro untuk pengembangan skala besar, menggunakan daerah-daerah PLTS pada lokasi bekas lahan tambang atau tambang terlantar yang lahan konsensinya sudah kembali ke Pemda karena tidak digunakan. Daerah yang luas itu bisa dijadikan sebagai site untuk kita plant solar energy di sana. Lalu ada PLTS yang terapung, beberapa waduk seperti Waduk Wonogiri in Central Java, Waduk Sutami in the East Java, the West Java we have Waduk Jatiluhur, Waduk Merica di Central Java, Waduk Saguling di West Java, and the farthest we have di Danau Singkarak di West Sumatra. And PLTS di daerah-daerah 3T, daerah-daerah terluar yang ada di perbatasan ya. Dan program hybrid for the small islands, especially for the Eastern Indonesia, untuk menciptakan pusat-pusat pertumbuhan ekonomi baru. Jadi our government has seen had the strategy to develop solar energy source to help our energy consumption and to push the development or the growth of our new energy centra. Next. Nah, this is we still talking about solar energy ya. Jadi mengalihkan subsidi listrik untuk penyediaan PLTS atap pada pelanggan-pelanggan PLN yang bersubsidi. Ini adalah salah satu usulan untuk program recovery after pandemi, COVID-19 pandemi. The benefit of this program menghemat subsidi listrik for the long term, mengurangi biaya listrik untuk pelanggan PLN, menghemat biaya produksi, menciptakan lapangan kerja baru karena pasti di situ ada teknisi, ada orang-orang yang bekerja di PLTS-nya, jadi masyarakat di sekitar pasti akan terlibat di dalamnya. Lalu mendorong tumbuhnya industri surya dalam negeri dan termasuk industri-industri penunjang ya. Karena untuk mobilisasi peralatan-peralatan itu pasti butuh jasa transportasi dan seterusnya. Jadi industri jasa penunjang ini akan seperti efek berantai, chain reaction. Jadi once we set up PLTS di satu tempat, ekonomi and everything will akan mengikuti. Lalu meningkatnya pemanfaatan dari renewable energy and for sure reduce the greenhouse gases emission. Next. For the reduction of carbon dioxide emission, as we have mentioned before, that our government has stated that Indonesia will reduce the greenhouse gas emission 29% by the end of 2030. And if we do business as usual, but if the supporting of the world international society, we can reduce up to 41% by the same year, 2030. Next. Well, this is the intended nationally determined contribution (INDC) for sektor energi. Kita sudah ratifikasi Paris Agreement melalui Undang-Undang Nomor 16 2016. Lalu dokumen pengesahannya disubmit ke UNFCCC November 6, 2016. Lalu kita sudah punya mitigasi tadi that we have already mentioned before. Lalu peningkatan pemanfaatan EBT akan memberikan kontribusi penurunan emisi gas rumah kaca yang signifikan, especially in the sector of energy. Ini ada tabel yang kita bisa lihat bahwa seberapa besar the reduction, emisi reduction by 2030. Next. Well, our government has made policies and strategies, and it is also the dream for all Indonesians that we can switch our energy sources from the fossil fuel step by step, year by year, to the renewable one. But still, we can see there is opportunities and also challenge about this topic if we implement it, if we try to implement it in Indonesia. Well, the first opportunity is the potential for new and renewable energy in Indonesia is quite large, which is spread in various areas, as we have seen in the previous slide, from Sumatra to Papua. And the second one is relatively high energy growth due to relatively high economic growth, 5 to 6 years. Yeah. The third opportunity within the framework of climate change, the use of a new and renewable energy as energy net has become world trend, not only in Indonesia, but all over the world. Many governments consider to use the renewable energy. Has become the world trend because it has the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for the benefit of our world, for the better future. And the fourth one, relatively cheap maintenance cost due to its new renewable energy sources available locally. But see, we still have some challenges. The first one, the production cost of new renewable energy electricity is relatively high, making it difficult to compete with conventional energy. The second one, it is limited incentive and funding mechanism for new renewable energy as we compare to the fossil fuel energy or batu bara. NRE is intermittent and cannot be transported, must be generated on site local ya. Jadi kalau kita punya PLTS di satu tempat, ya source of energinya dihasilkan pada tempat itu. And we still have limited ability of grid system to absorb electricity from new and renewable energy with large capacity. It is why the research and development is still ongoing in the field of renewable energy. The limited capacity of human resources in mastering new energy technologies renewable. And the sixth one, generally new and renewable energy technologies are still imported. That is why it's still quite expensive, because the company that produce or work with government to provide renewable energy, still import the tools and materials from other countries. That is why we still have challenge on that. But to reach a better future, we need to solve the problems and see the opportunities as the way to change our paradigm, as our government has already put effort on priorities and strategies about renewable energy. It still have a big question actually for us as a society of Indonesia, what kind of contribution that we can give to support the use of renewable energy so we can make it affordable and clean and accessible to everyone. And also the big question is actually for the education institution, like Satya Wacana is an institution. Actually, what can we do in our research, in our development of technology to support the Sustainable Development Goal number 7? Next slide. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's the end of my presentation today to give a brief overview about what is actually happened in our world, in Indonesia, our strategies and policies. And I think we can have deeper discussion about this topic. And thank you for your attention. Mr. Ryan, the time is yours.
Thank you very much for the very insightful and inspiring presentation from Pak Giner. And we will now continue to the question and answer session. I would like to invite all the participants to write down their questions in the chat box. Kami mengundang para peserta yang terhormat untuk dapat mengajukan pertanyaan Anda di dalam kolom chat, atau juga dapat menggunakan fitur reactions. You can also use the reaction features in your Zoom and then use the raise hand button, and we will directly allow you to present your questions directly to Pak Giner. Okay, it seems that we have our first question for this afternoon, Pak. Let me read it out for everyone. Oh, it's from Ibu Deborah, the head of BKHI UKSW. Hello, Pak Bro Giner. Thanks so much for your insightful presentation. I would like to ask about the relation of environment and energy. This morning until afternoon, the student council of the Faculty of Science and Mathematics had a webinar about the role of science on the environment recovery. I think your presentation is related to it regarding solar cell. I guess Indonesia is potential to develop it because the strategic position of Indonesia in the globe, the sun is here the whole year. Do you think solar cell is affordable for Indonesian citizens? How could it be, since it is still very expensive recently? Could you please respond to the question, Pak Giner?
Thank you, Bu Deborah, for the question. As I have already presented, that our country is a blessed one, because if we see almost every single renewable energy sources, we have it in Indonesia. Well, really, especially when we are talking about solar cell, because we are a tropical country, and the sun will be here almost every tiap hari sepanjang tahun. Ya. So the problem is our government belum menaruh betul-betul perhatian sepanjang berapa tahun terakhir. As we have already get the policy that made by our President Jokowi in 2014, the policy that I presented in my presentation, that itu menjadi starting point sebenarnya untuk pengembangan ke depan Bu Deborah. So we actually have the whole potential of renewable energy. Nah, sekarang tinggal bagaimana research and development-nya itu terus dikembangkan sehingga it could reduce the cost. Nah, salah satu the main reason, the challenge that actually we face today is because we still import the tools, the materials for the development of solar cell. If our education institution, if our companies in Indonesia can focus on that thing, solar cell production, I think the cost of production will be reduced, Deborah, and it will be impact for the electricity consumption. So sekarang tinggal bagaimana visi bangsa ini ke depan. Like we still have problem with the vision as a country, as a nation, gitu. Kalau ya saya tidak tahu ya, kalau teman-teman baca beberapa tahun terakhir ini kan, we still have problem dengan cukup banyak mafia di migas, mafia di perminyakan, sehingga shifting energi pun masih menjadi masalah. Karena begitu, saya bukan orang politik ya, tapi kita bisa lihat begitu ada shifting of energy, akan ada orang yang kehilangan freelance-nya di sana. Ini juga masih jadi masalah, begitu. Ya, jadi kita punya masalah yang cukup kompleks gitu. Tapi kalau kita bisa berpegang kepada the vision of the country, if we gonna use the renewable energy by 2030, we reduce the carbon dioxide emission, go on gitu. Lalu supporting dari pemerintah seperti apa? Gitu Bu Deborah. Jika semua itu bisa dilakukan, kita pasti bisa mereduce cost-cost yang lain. Pasti ya beriringan. Well, thank you Kak Deborah. Hopefully it can answer your question. Well, we have Ibu Moninggar, Ibu Jodelin. Sebenarnya tugas siapa menyediakan energi sangat berat bila dibebankan pada pemerintah. Sudah tugas negara sebenarnya Bu Inggar to provide kebutuhan, the needs of its people. Tapi government tidak bisa bekerja sendiri. Itulah kenapa mereka biasanya gandeng pihak swasta untuk bekerja bersama-sama. Saya memang belum membaca pihak swasta atau perusahaan private company apa di Indonesia yang betul-betul punya fokus on renewable energy gitu. Karena kalau pemerintah dan pihak swasta ini sudah bisa kerja bareng-bareng, itu the share of cost itu biasanya terjadi. Kita punya pengalaman begitu dalam berbagai. Jadi sharing of cost itu akan terjadi sehingga tidak terlalu membebankan pemerintah. Tapi kalau bertanya tugas siapa menyediakan energi, bagi saya negara bertugas menyediakan energi untuk warganya. Nah, caranya bagaimana itu yang perlu dipikirkan. Nah, ini bila ada warga menemukan energi baru, mekanisme realisasi digunakan bagi kesejahteraan warga. Bu Inggar, nah kita nih di Indonesia ini kan kalau kita lihat berapa tahun terakhir tuh ada banyak sekali riset sebenarnya. Ada banyak sekali riset yang dilakukan di sekolah-sekolah bahkan yang dilombakan di berbagai kompetisi ilmiah tentang ini. Kita bicara soal new energy maupun renewable energy. Ada banyak sekali, termasuk sekarang kalau kita bicara soal biofuel ya. Jadi cuman the problem is, yang sepanjang saya tahu Bu Inggar ya, semoga tidak keliru, tapi kalau keliru saya minta maaf. Tapi kalau untuk sampai pada tataran konsumsi secara publik, itu tahapannya tidak mudah karena kita bicara soal energi ini, kita ada di bawah Kementerian Energi dan Sumber Daya Mineral ya, Energi and Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. Dan pasti untuk sampai tahapan ini pasti mulai tidak bisa ujuk-ujuk langsung dipakai gitu. Tapi pasti kalau misalnya ada temuan dari masyarakat, pasti mulai dari pembuktiannya secara riset bagaimana. Apakah sumber energi ini kemudian dia efisien atau tidak. Lalu tahapan sampai pada akhirnya misalnya our government memutuskan bahwa oke, sumber energi ini yang ditemukan oleh masyarakat ini atau si A ini bisa digunakan secara nasional. Tetapi itu harus didukung oleh supporting system yang luar biasa begitu. Seperti itu, Bu Inga. Oke, we have Renaldi ya. Renaldi, is there any requirement so it can be said new renewable energy? Well, kalau teman-teman bicara soal terbarukan itu ya, bicara soal renewable saja itu berarti yang tadi kita bicara soal sesuatu yang akan selalu ada, dan seperti sinar matahari will be every day, angin akan selalu ada, hydro selama di situ ada air itu will be renewable energy. Oke, Pak Yosep, untuk pertanyaan nomor 2 dari Bu Dr. Jodelin, sepertinya dari saya ingat komunitas, karya Taiba Salatiga ya, new renewable energy kayak biogas, ya betul, ya itu teman-teman, new renewable energy ya kayak biogas misalnya dari saya, karena ini bukan bidang kajian saya secara spesifik, tapi Pak Surya, our Vice Rector for Research and Social Services, beliau cukup banyak kalau di fisika itu bermain di melakukan riset atau membimbing mahasiswa di terkait bidang new renewable energy ini. Gitu. Misalnya waktu saya mahasiswa itu kita apa waktu itu ya, sekam padi ya, saya lupa persis, tapi ada heat yang ada panas yang kita bisa rubah dengan modul-modul fisis tertentu, kemudian bisa menjadi sumber energi yang baru begitu, bisa menjadi elektrik. Jadi karena sifat dasar energi ya, berubah dari satu bentuk ke bentuk yang lain, jadi shifting the form of heat into electricity misalnya. Atau ada beberapa riset yang terbaru sebenarnya kalau teman-teman baca, saya kemarin-kemarin juga iseng-iseng baca, kalau di fisika itu ada sensor yang namanya sensor piezoelektrik. Jadi piezoelektrik itu sensor yang dia merubah gerak, acak, whatever, di mana ada perubahan gaya. When there is change of force, it can transform into sinyal-sinyal listrik. Sinyal-sinyal listrik. Itu modul yang namanya kita sebut sebagai piezoelektrik. Nah, apakah itu yang dimaksud dengan what we call a new renewable energy? Jadi bahkan di situ diimajinasikan kalau ada orang dance begitu, kita dance di satu tempat, lalu di situ ada kristal piezoelektrik yang diletakkan dengan posisi-posisi tertentu, itu bisa mentransfer selama orang menari dance itu menjadi satu bentuk energi elektrik, energi listrik. Jadi ini cukup banyak sebenarnya ide-ide seperti itu yang cukup berkembang di berbagai tempat. Nah, termasuk yang Pak Yose bilang kalau bicara soal biogas ya, biogas, saya ingat itu Pak Surya kotoran hewan ya ditampung di satu tempat, lalu itu beliau berhasil bikin di Soe itu waktu beliau pergi mengajar di salah satu sekolah tinggi di sana, itu juga beliau melakukan itu di sana. Jadi dengan itu biomass ya, biogas ya. Jadi karena hidrogen sebenarnya kalau kita belajar komponnya, kalau benda-benda itu membusuk begitu, there will be gas, it produce hydrogen. Nah, kalau hidrogen itu ditempatkan dalam tempat yang tertutup, nah, itu tekanannya akan ini, lalu konsentrasinya akan bertambah day by day seiring lamanya pembusukan. Nah, itu kemudian bisa dipakai juga menjadi source of energy. Orang bisa jadikan sebagai untuk memasak dan seterusnya.
Baik, terima kasih untuk responnya Pak Giner. Sudah beberapa pertanyaan tadi yang dijawab oleh Pak Giner. Mungkin saya akan beralih dulu ke yang mengajukan menggunakan fitur raise hand ya. Di sini ada Bu Sik Natalia. Bu Sik Natalia, silakan mengajukan pertanyaannya secara live.
Ya.
Oke.
Kak Nat, welcome to Salatiga.
Hi Gina.
Hai Kak.
Merci beaucoup for your great presentation.
Thank you.
I have a simple question regarding my interest in community empowerment. Sustainable development goals demand interconnected relations between targets and stakeholders, right? And in my opinion, nowadays, energy business is still co-opted by the elite, but never count local community in. On the other side, Indonesia, for example, still has equity problem, in which in some area the local community can create an alternative energy, like you said before. So, what is your perspective to connect all stakeholders in this issue? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kanat. I think Indonesia needs more detail rather than just peraturan pemerintah or just strategy to reduce gas rumah kaca, reduce the emission of carbon dioxide. I mean, aturan turunan terkait how to empower the community itself, because community lah yang menggunakan electricity itu pada akhirnya begitu. Tapi kebijakan-kebijakan ini kebanyakan ada pada arah elit. Nah, as I have mentioned before in my presentation, that if we can involve the community and in the semangat untuk renewable energy ini, yang pertama adalah mereka bisa dilibatkan mulai dari proses-proses perancangan sebenarnya. Bagi saya, itulah kenapa sebenarnya bicara soal community empowerment, ini anak-anak di situ itu harusnya jangan menjadi pengguna saja. Misalnya saya mau set up PLTS atau pembangkit listrik tenaga hidro di suatu sungai yang begitu deras, di satu tempat, di satu remote area. Nah, jangan anak-anak di situ atau masyarakat di situ hanya sebagai pengguna sebenarnya, karena bagaimana mereka bisa diajari atau bahkan mereka menjadi orang yang expert menguasai terkait pembangkit listrik tenaga hidro menurut saya. Sehingga mereka menjadi pembelajar, mengerti, dan mereka betul-betul mengelola sumber energi yang ada di situ. Jadi mereka tidak hanya sebagai pengguna, tetapi mastering the whole technology. Nah, ini kayaknya butuh effort yang lebih dari pemerintah. Karena memang kita sadar bahwa selama ini dalam banyak alih teknologi, kita tuh sebagai end user. itu dalam banyak hal. Saya cukup banyak info walaupun di kesehatan, tapi saya melihat itu juga, kita semua jadi end user. Kita tidak, makanya kalau ada apa-apa kita akan selalu bertanya. Nah, bagaimana pemerintah punya strategic plan seperti yang Kanat pengen community empowerment ini, mereka bisa di-involve di seluruh proses itu. I think itu salah satu cara yang sangat baik supaya transisi dari non-renewable energy ke renewable energy ini bisa betul-betul in touch dengan masyarakat. Mereka harus dilibatkan dari proses awal sampai end user sebagai pengguna. That's what I think, Kak Anand. Semoga it answer your question.
Terima kasih untuk responnya, Pak Giner. Dari Bu Nat mungkin sudah cukup dijawab, Bu. Baik. Sepertinya tadi Bu Deborah ingin melanjutkan tanggapannya, Bu. Silahkan, Bu.
Okay, thank you, Mas Ryan. Pak Kinar, thank you for your explanation and also presentation a while ago. I just want to share about the solar cell. Yeah, I had a very good experience during my undergraduate life in UKSW because we had a study tour to PPLH Seloliman, Pusat Pengembangan Lingkungan Hidup Seloliman, and they have solar cell there. PPLH Seloliman is an institution. It is because the cooperation of Indonesia and Germany. So it's in East Java province. There, they use the solar cell to supply the energy for the lamp in that area. Jadi ada taman gitu, kemudian banyak solar cell yang dipasang di tempat-tempat tertentu, kemudian itu digunakan untuk menyalakan lampu taman pada malam hari. Which is it's such an amazing experience for me, karena saya pikir itu adalah listrik gitu ya, tapi ternyata mereka nggak pakai gitu. Kemudian selain itu mereka memanfaatkan tenaga matahari untuk water heater. Jadi di kamar mandinya itu ada water heater dan itu tidak pakai listrik seperti kita sekarang ya, atau gas gitu, enggak, tapi pakai tenaga surya. Jadi airnya dinaikkan ke atas, kemudian dijemur gitu seharian, dan sore kita bisa pakai untuk mandi. Kemudian ada lagi memasak telur dengan tenaga surya. Itu yang paling amazing buat saya. Jadi telurnya itu dimasukkan di dalam satu kotak kaca, dan kotaknya itu dicat dengan warna hitam doff. Kemudian kita masukkan telur di situ pagi hari, lalu sore hari telurnya matang gitu ya. Jadi which is it's reduce the gas energy, of course. I just want to highlight here that actually I'm agree with you that Indonesia really have a potential potency in using the solar cell, but yeah, it's still expensive ya, around 2 juta per cell ya. Jadi which is very very expensive for us. But I thought FSM ever tried to make it in cooperation with UGM some years ago, I think. So if UKSW can still working on it, I think it would be good for UKSW to be the producer of solar cell in the future. So hopefully. I just want to add some story about it regarding to your presentation about solar cell. Thank you. Thank you, Mas Ryan.
Thank you very much for the comments and response, Bu Deborah. We would like to continue to the next question from Natalia Yoganda. Selamat sore, dari webinar sebelumnya saya mendapatkan bahwa kapasitas air menurun setiap tahunnya karena kebutuhan manusia yang meningkat. Menurut Pak Giner, apakah energi air dapat digantikan? Apakah bisa manusia bertahan tanpa air? Padahal faktanya kebutuhan manusia akan air berbanding terbalik dengan kapasitas air. Ya. So, Pak Giner, please respond to the question.
Thank you, Mbak Natalia. Ya, jadi saya katakan manusia tidak bisa hidup. Orang bisa tidak makan tidak apa-apa. Tapi kalau tidak minum beberapa saat kita pasti kacau karena lebih dari 70% komposisi tubuh kita ini air. Jadi makanya orang dehidrasi dan segala macam itu sangat berbahaya. Itu bikin ada Bu Dokter Inggar mungkin bisa menambahkan, tapi efek terhadap kesehatannya sungguh fatal. Bahkan bukan cuma tubuh kita ya, tapi bahkan sel tubuh yang paling terkecil sekalipun itu 70% lebihnya adalah air begitu. Sehingga kalau dikatakan manusia bisa bertahan tanpa air, bisa beberapa waktu, tapi tidak bisa lama-lama gitu. Karena pasti kita punya limit bertahan tanpa air itu ya. Memang betul kalau kita baca banyak sumber-sumber air yang kemudian habis ya gara-gara pembangunan gitu. Paling sederhana, di mana ada pembangunan, di situ serapan air akan menjadi berkurang. Akibatnya air dalam tanah ya, terutama saya bukan expert di bidang itu, tapi sepanjang yang saya tahu, ketika semakin banyak pembangunan fisik, lalu serapan air itu berkurang, maka kemampuan simpanan air bawah tanah kita menjadi berkurang. Lama-lama ketika sekarang orang istilahnya apa ya, mau mencari sumber air bersih itu susah gitu. Nah, belum lagi ditambah diversifikasi daerah kita ini cukup luas. Ketika menghadapi kemarau panjang, ada beberapa daerah yang sangat kesulitan untuk mendapatkan air. Saya tidak tahu berapa puluh tahun yang lalu kondisinya seperti apa, tapi hari-hari ini kalau kita nonton berita live maupun kita baca berita-berita tertulis, ya ketika menghadapi musim-musim kemarau, orang menjadi sangat kesulitan gitu, tidak ada air. Karena pasti dengan pembangunan fisik seperti sekarang yang begitu masif, itu akan sangat mengganggu kemampuan bumi kita untuk menampung air gitu ya. Gitu, sehingga apakah energi air dapat digantikan untuk menjadi sumber energi lain? Iya. Energi air bisa digantikan, solar, energi matahari bisa menggantikan energi air sebenarnya untuk menjadi sumber energi. Itu kan biomass bisa menggantikan air sebagai sumber energi, tetapi sebagai sumber kehidupan, matahari tidak bisa menggantikan air, gas tidak bisa menggantikan air, begitu. Itu yang saya bisa jawab. Oleh karena itu memang konservasi air juga menjadi penting, bukan hanya energi konservasi, conservation of energy, tapi conservation of water itu menjadi penting. Akses kepada air bersih itu menjadi penting. Nah, saya beberapa waktu yang lalu nonton National Geographic. Teman-teman, isu air sekarang menjadi isu aksesibilitas kepada air bersih yang layak untuk dikonsumsi, itu menjadi isu yang sangat penting di PBB hari-hari ini. Sebagai contoh yang mereka angkat itu di Inggris. Itu tidak membayangkan, saya juga tidak membayangkan bahwa di negara seperti Inggris itu orang bahkan harus mengantri untuk dapat air seperti kita antri di tangki air. Itu terjadi karena sumber air sehat yang terbatas, sementara demand-nya banyak. Ini kan kemudian unsur ekonominya masuk. Ujung-ujungnya jual beli air yang sehat. Ini masalah. Jadi ya kita jangan menjadi, nah inilah kita tidak tahu. Ini juga sama dengan energi ini. Ini bicara soal sources, apapun jenis sourcesnya. Begitu jumlahnya menjadi terbatas, seperti air bersih, tapi demand masyarakat kita karena the growth of population. Nah ini kan hukum ekonomi akan berlaku nih, hukum permintaan penawaran. Jadi memang selalu ada terhubung satu dengan yang lain, tapi bagi saya air tidak bisa digantikan dengan model-model apapun. Ya. Begitu, Mbak Nat. Terima kasih, Mas Ryan.
Baik, terima kasih untuk responnya, Pak Dinar. We still have time for one or two questions, two last questions. Kita masih punya sedikit waktu untuk satu atau dua pertanyaan terakhir. Kami persilahkan kepada yang terhormat Bapak Ibu peserta untuk bisa mengajukan pertanyaannya di dalam kolom chat atau di dalam chat box, atau juga bisa menggunakan fitur reactions, lalu klik tombol raise hand untuk mengajukan pertanyaan langsung ke Pak Dinar. So if you have further questions to all respected participants, you still have time for one or two last questions. You can type in your questions in the chat box, or you can ask them directly to Pak Dinar. I think today is really, really interesting, Pak Dinar, because we're talking about energy and connections with other goals in the SDGs and the Sustainable Development Goals is also interrelated with the other goals. So, yeah, it invites the participants to be curious, yeah, to ask more questions related to our goal number 7 that is presented today.
boleh tambah sedikit, Mas Ryan. Jadi
Boleh, silakan.
teman-teman, ini memang ketika saya baca-baca gitu, sebenarnya refleksinya juga begini. Masalah energi, ketersediaan energi ini, availability of the energy, electricity misalnya, itu juga related to our daily habit sebenarnya. Kenapa saya katakan demikian? Kadang-kadang kita keluar kos, keluar rumah, atau kadang kita dari kantor pulang, kita forget to switch off the lamp. Kita kadang lupa itu. Kadang kita menyalakan komputer dan kita bepergian pergi belanja kemana, putar lagu dan segala macam. Tanpa sadar itu konsumsi energinya jalan terus begitu. Jadi memang saya lalu merenung-renung satu waktu, memang nampaknya kita juga harus, betul pemerintah sedang berusaha dengan program-program kebijakan ya, strategi dan policies, tapi kemudian kita juga harus merubah habit kita. Walaupun nanti shifting to renewable energy, tapi kalau kita pemborosan energi itu terus kita lakukan karena pola-pola perilaku kita, itu juga kita tidak bersyukur sebenarnya dengan gift yang kita dapat begitu. Kadang-kadang kita cas HP misalnya paling sederhana sampai 100, sampai lewat-lewat kita biarkan karena ketiduran, atau cas laptop kita sampai kebablasan, itu kan konsum energi yang seharusnya dia tidak harus pakai begitu ya, tidak harus berikan untuk mengecas berlebih terhadap barang-barang elektronik yang kita punya. Jadi instead of kita dukung pemerintah, we should change our habit of using energy, ordinary consumption. Begitu. Itu kemudian yang kedua sebenarnya memang di luar yang kita bahas ya, tetapi kita melihat bahwa hari-hari ini kebutuhan energi selain untuk kebutuhan ya, untuk office, untuk rumah tangga, untuk mesin-mesin di company. Sekarang yang lagi rame-rame ini kan kita bicara soal kendaraan listrik kan, ini bicara juga soal energi. Nah, tapi ya kita bicara soal baterai lithium kan itu mining ya, jadi tetap ditambang dan segala macam. Tapi dia bicara soal lithium baterai ini kan bicara soal kapasitas dia menyimpan energi dalam waktu yang lebih lama, itu kan dalam waktu lebih lama, sehingga bisa provide energi yang cukup untuk sebuah kendaraan melakukan perjalanan. Tetapi kita juga harus hati-hati karena the use of lithium baterai itu kadang-kadang pada temperatur tertentu itu jadi sangat berbahaya. Teman-teman pasti masih ingat kasus di mana HP itu bisa meledak ya. Makanya di beberapa maskapai kan melarang ada HP jenis produksi perusahaan tertentu yang tidak boleh. Pernah kan ada heboh begitu, yang seri sekian tidak boleh karena setelah diuji pada temperatur tertentu dia bisa meledak. Jadi ya, ini kita bukan talking terkait renewable energy, tetapi terkait kapasitasi kemampuan menyimpan energi. Nah, bicara soal renewable energy juga sebenarnya ada concern ke sana. Jadi kalau kita sudah punya PLTS, kita punya pembangkit listrik tenaga hidro atau biogas ya, dari biomass. Nah, kapasitas dia menyimpan energi ini juga masih menjadi isu yang sangat krusial untuk dibahas oleh para peneliti untuk membuat bagaimana tools-toolsnya ini, supporting device-nya bisa menyimpan energi dalam jangka waktu yang lebih lama begitu. Saya sering paling sederhana tuh kadang-kadang pakai analogi HP kita. Kalau HP kita yang HP Android yang sekarang itu kemampuan baterainya bertahan itu sangat pendek. Kita bandingkan dengan HP yang dulu itu ya, yang katanya lempar sapinya mati gitu. Itu bisa berhari-hari begitu tidak mati karena kemampuan menyimpan energi dan sistem yang terintegrasi di dalam device itu menjadi lebih, yang alat-alat kita yang modern kan semakin kompleks dan semakin besar sehingga dia butuh konsumsi energi yang lebih banyak ya dibandingkan dengan HP yang lama gitu. Well, ini Pak Joseph, in terms of creating an era which partner in Asia or abroad, do you think we have to build establish? Betul Pak Yo, saya sangat setuju. Saya tidak tahu apakah di UKSW kita punya Center of Renewable Energy. Itu serang saya pikirkan Pak Yo. Kalau itu ada dan kita bisa cooperate with other education institution, at least in Indonesia, dan pasti di luar negeri mereka risetnya udah lebih advance ya Pak Yo ya. Nah kalau kita bisa bangun itu, lalu kemudian berkolaborasi untuk riset yang lebih baik, saya pikir itu juga bisa menjadi kontribusi dari Satya Wacana ya Pak Yo ya, dalam concern pemerintah untuk mewujudkan affordable and clean energy di Indonesia.
Baik, terima kasih untuk responnya Pak Giner. I would like to invite Pak Joseph, probably. Would you like to add a bit to your question, Pak? Or any comments?
No, thank you. I think it's enough. Yeah, that's a challenge actually, because yeah, I'm thinking of it from the perspective of cooperation. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can talk further over this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Joseph, and Pak Gina also for the response. We are still waiting for one last question. So please, dear respected participants, you can ask your questions by putting it in the chat box or directly click on the reactions button and then click raise hand. And directly we will allow you to deliver your question directly to Pak Gina. So one last question. Okay. I thought I saw one participant raise his hand earlier. I think her or his name was Aprilia. So Aprilia, are you still interested in asking the last question for this session? Okay. It seems it is clear. Okay, so we can now proceed to the next session, that is group photo, taking a group photo. I would like to invite all the participants to enable their video. Kami mengundang dengan hormat kepada seluruh peserta untuk dapat mengaktifkan videonya. Kita akan mengambil sesi foto singkat sejenak. Sekali lagi kami mengundang kepada seluruh peserta webinar SDGs PKH UKSW di sore hari ini untuk bisa mengaktifkan fitur videonya. Kita akan melakukan sesi foto sejenak. Okay, we will do the first slide. Please give a big smile. Mohon memberikan senyumnya. Kita akan mengambil foto di slide pertama. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, continue on to the next slide. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then the next slide. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much for activating your video. Terima kasih sudah menyalakan videonya. Dan kita pun sudah tiba di akhir sesi webinar SDGs di sore hari ini. Once again, I would like to highly appreciate and thank you to Pak Giner Mas Lebu as our speaker for the 7th session of Sustainable Development Goals. It is very interesting, and I hope we can have more insights in the future and more work on towards the clean and affordable energy. And now let me share you the link to the evaluation form. And I would like to inform all the participants as well that this session is recorded, and the recording of this session will then be uploaded to BKHI UKSW YouTube channel. So you can rewatch the entire session and also our previous sessions and even our future sessions once it is completed. Perlu kami informasikan bahwa seluruh sesi webinar SDGs akan kami rekam dan kami masukkan ke channel YouTube BKH UKSW sehingga Bapak Ibu, saudara-saudari peserta dapat melihat kembali tayangan rekaman dari sesi-sesi dari setiap Sustainable Development Goals webinar series. Kami sudah mengirimkan link untuk evaluation form di dalam kolom chat. Bapak Ibu dapat segera mengaksesnya. Oh ya, mohon maaf sebentar. Saya aktifkan. Okay, can you please try it once again? It is now enabled. So the link will be active for just 1 hour. Linknya akan aktif selama 1 jam. Bapak Ibu saudara-saudari dapat mengaksesnya selama 1 jam ke depan hingga pukul 17.30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. Dan Bapak Ibu saudara-saudari peserta juga dapat mengakses rekamannya di kemudian hari yang akan kami upload di channel YouTube BKH UKSW. Once again, we would like to thank you all and see you on the next series of SDGs webinar series that is going to be held on 21st of May 2021. Jadi minggu depan kita akan istirahat karena minggu depan ada libur Lebaran. Selamat berlibur juga untuk Bapak Ibu saudara-saudari sekalian. Kita akan bertemu lagi di seri yang ke-8 dari SDGs webinar series di tanggal 21 Mei 2021 dengan pembicara Ibu Lili Suharti, PhD, yang akan dilaksanakan pada tanggal 21 Mei 2021. Kami nantikan kehadirannya di sesi-sesi mendatang. And once again, I would like to say thank you to all respected participants and also a very special thank you to Pak Gina for this afternoon session. Thank you and have a nice day, have a nice weekend, have a nice holiday.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. God bless you all.
Thank you, Pak Kinir.